Hello, my name is Melinda Arcadia, and welcome to my Family Healing Traditions presentation. So, just some presentation focal points. I'm going to be introducing who the women in my family are, who I interviewed, protections of health, folk remedies, birth and death rituals, afterlife reflections, and then overall reflections in relation to the course. So these are the women in my family. Starting from left to right, there is a photo of myself, and then there is my mother, Christine, between me and my sister, Cassandra. The middle photo is my paternal grandmother of Vera, and she's with my father. And then on the right-hand side is a picture of my maternal grandmother, and her name is Aura. And I just wanted to kind of show the women who I came from. Who I interviewed. So I chose to interview my sister Cassandra because she's actually the only living female relative of my nuclear family. I do have some distant cousins, but none that I'm really in contact with. So yeah, I chose my sister. My sister Cassandra, she is 33. We are both from Worcester, Massachusetts, and we are both Canadian and Italian. Religious-wise, my sister is polytheistic. She identifies as Wiccan, which that means that she believes in more than one deity and she works with more than one deity. She's been practicing Wiccan for the last 20 so odd years, so since she was like an early teenager. And we both grew up in a house that was Roman Catholic. And now that both of our parents have passed, we like to make sure that we keep our traditions alive. So I'm still Christian, but we both celebrate the Christian and Wiccan traditions and celebrations together, just because more holidays is fun for everyone. So for protections of health, my sister and I kind of talked about some that we, did growing up versus what we do now. So for every time we had left the house, my father always did the sign of the cross on us before we left. It was very quick. He would say, "Bye, I love you," and then he would do the sign of the cross on our forehead, just to kind of ensure that we would be home safe and we would return home. One tradition that we do now for protection of health, that is pagan based, is on the first of every month, you stand on your door frame, you sprinkle a little cinnamon in the palm of your hand, and you blow it into your doorway, and it is for good health and good luck for the coming months. I did want to point out that both my maternal grandmother and my mother were nurses. And so there wasn't a whole lot of rituals focused on protection of health because it was very like a science focused like just like very like science focused, and religion wise we were very strict Roman Catholic. So if anything wasn't inherently Christian or could not be proven that it was Christian, then we didn't do it. Like it was a very strict house. Like we couldn't read some books, we couldn't like watch some movies, and we definitely couldn't practice some health traditions if we had felt that it was not like Christian in nature. That obviously did evolve and change after my father passed away. And we started incorporating more of my sister's religious traditions into the house. So yeah. Folk remedies for health after illness. So there were prayers for everything. One in particular I remember was a prayer for nightmares, because my sister and I could not stop watching scary movies. And we could not stop having nightmares about them. And so there was a specific prayer when we would wake up my poor dad and say, can you sit with us? And we would pray together and then we would go back to sleep. There was also like prayers for being sick, and then like there's blessings of the sick, which is a very like very well-known Catholic tradition. We also had, chicken soup for colds. One in particular that I do remember though is that there were tea baths for after sunburns. So my sister and I have a very odd blue dye allergy. So we couldn't use a lot of aloe vera that you'd buy at like CVS because they always dyed it green. And so we couldn't use that. Um, and so we would my dad would brew black tea and he would uh like soak a face cloth in it and then like put it on us. And we would let it sit for a few minutes and it would take the sting right out of sunburn. We used like lavender for headaches. That was something suggested to us by a doctor because I had really bad migraines growing up. And then we also were told by the same doctor that they had pressure point massages for headache relief. Any kind of holistic remedy for health growing up was actually from my father. Like I said, my mom was very science-based, like there's a medicine for that, was basically all like her like thinking mentality. My dad was wary of taking a lot of over-the-counter medications because he grew up in the 50s, and when he had had pneumonia when he was a very young kid, they gave him penicillin, and he actually had an allergic reaction and he lost his eyesight from it. So a lot of the folk remedies and like holistic medicine that was used, my dad had like books and books on like plant healing. So it was actually from my dad's side, not my mom's side, just because he had kind of lost a little faith and he had never been able to fix his eyesight after he had lost it from the medication. So he was like always just a little weary of medicine. But my mom, as a nurse, had devoted her whole life to just being like, no, we believe in science for a reason. So yeah, birth and death rituals. So when I was talking to my sister, we couldn't think of the last time we had had a new birth in the family. The last time we had think about is that we had a distant cousin years ago who had had a baby, and that was over 16 years ago. So we haven't had a birth in our family, and so, um, yeah, and my sister and I don't have children. So we never actually got around to asking our family if there was anything to do when someone was born. When it comes to death, though, um, my mother had told me, you know, make sure that they look presentable for the morticians to come. So when my father died and my mother died, we both washed their faces and we made sure that they looked clean before the mortician came. And I am also a barber. And so after my father had passed away, I actually shaved his face for him. And I had actually like cut his hair when he was unconscious before he passed away because he was in a coma for a little bit. Um, and we just made sure that they were very well like kept and clean before the mortician came. But we had made sure that they were like pretty clean before they'd passed away regardless. Um, we also covered the clocks when they died. That is an old tradition. My sister and I talked about it, and we actually don't really know where it comes from. We just knew that it was something that we had to do. And then we opened all of the windows when both my parents had passed away. And my dad passed away in August of 2020. My mom passed away a year ago, yesterday. So February 4th, 2023. And so we had like opened all the windows, and that's just for the superstition of like not having this like the soul trapped inside. Um, they were both buried in Catholic services. We do not believe in cremation as Catholics. Um, my dad, I remember my sister and I were talking, and we had remembered that my dad was very adamant. I don't remember exactly why, but they were also both buried with rosary beads. And so both had their hands in a praying motion with rosary beads around it. And so those were pretty significant things that they had wanted that were part of like religious affiliations. And they both had like in church Catholic services as well. Afterlife reflections. So both my parents, like I said, that they were Roman Catholic. They believed in heaven and hell. If you spent your life devoted, you would go to heaven. They both were very avid churchgoers. And if you sinned, you would go to hell. But my parents never, they never emphasized on who went to hell because they always were very adamant on that's not their place. So all they wanted to do was try their best and be good people. When asking my sister if she believed in heaven or hell as a Wiccan, she actually does, which does differ depending on who you talk to. But I think it shows the influence of growing up Roman Catholic. There are some things you can't really pull apart from even if you change religions, or some traditions that, just kind of integrate. I personally am unsure if I believe in heaven or hell. I've definitely taken a step back from religion after the loss of both my parents because it was just very traumatizing. And so I'm pretty undecided and pretty like I don't really give it a whole lot of thought. Just really hoping for the best. Personal reflections. I would say that throughout the duration of this course, it really emphasizes how culture, like religion, ethnicity, really is a part of who you are and self-identity. And so, talk to your parents, write things down. There were things that I didn't know that I would need to know after I lost both my parents because I lost my dad when I was 24, my mom when I was 27. And so, and like I said, there's only one other person in my family like alive. Um, so write things down. There can be a lot of culture and heritage that you lose when people die. And so there is a part of yourself and your identity that you question when you lose someone. And I think the importance is throughout this course, you kind of learn how important culture is and how important it is to respect culture because not everyone has close ties with heritage or culture. And so, I think it makes it um, very important that for me moving forward as like a health education professional, I want to make sure that I respect I respect that because I don't have a whole lot to work with. And so I want to make sure that the people who do feel so respected because it's so important. And I wish every day that I had some semblance of connectivity with some cultural traditions. And the last thing is to take photos. Keep traditions alive. It's so important, the preservation of culture, because when you lose it, there is a sense of emptiness that you feel. And so, yeah, this was the last family photo we ever had where everyone was alive and talking before my grandmother had passed away, which is where we kind of lost touch and people moved out of state and this and that. And so, um, yeah, just cherish your culture, cherish your ethnicity, be very proud of it, and also make sure that you cherish other people's and help them flourish it and stay connected with it because once it's lost, it's not great. Um, so yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone else's presentations. Thank you so much for your time.